Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he guided his cargo ship through the busy space lanes around Kepler Station. The massive trading hub floated in the darkness like a small metal city, with ships from dozens of different worlds coming and going. Jake had been making this run for 3 years now, hauling supplies between Earth and the outer colonies. It was honest work, even if it did not make him rich. His ship, the Freedom's Edge, was not much to look at. The hull was scratched and dented from years of use, and the engines made strange noises that worried him sometimes. But she was his, bought and paid for with money he had saved from his time in the Earth Defense Corps. Now he was his own boss, which was exactly how he liked it. Jake docked at Bay 47 and began unloading medical supplies bound for the mining colonies. The work was hard, but he enjoyed the independence. As he moved the last crate onto the loading platform, he heard shouting from the main corridor. 3 large aliens in dark armor were chasing someone through the crowd. The person they were chasing was small and moved quickly between the other travelers. Jake caught a glimpse of pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer like crystal in the station lights. It was a Veltar, one of the crystalline-skinned aliens from the inner systems. The Veltar were known for their advanced technology and strict social order. The running figure stumbled and fell near Jake's ship. It was a female Veltar, her crystal-like skin marked with cuts and bruises. Her clothes were torn and dirty, nothing like the fine robes most Veltar wore. She looked up at Jake with large, scared eyes that seemed to glow with their own light. "Please," she said in accented English. "Help me." The 3 armored figures were getting closer. Jake could see they carried heavy weapons and looked like professional bounty hunters. He made a quick decision that would change his life forever. "This way," he said, pulling the alien woman to her feet. Jake led her quickly into his ship and sealed the airlock behind them. The woman collapsed against the wall, breathing heavily. Up close, Jake could see that her crystalline skin was actually quite beautiful, catching and reflecting light in fascinating patterns. "Thank you," she said. "I am called Zara. I owe you my life." "Jake Morrison," he replied. "What kind of trouble are you in?" Before Zara could answer, someone began pounding on the airlock door. A rough voice shouted threats in several different languages. Jake activated the ship's external cameras and saw the 3 bounty hunters outside, along with 2 station security guards. "Mr. Morrison," came a voice over the communication system. "Station security. We need to speak with you about harboring a fugitive." Jake looked at Zara, who shook her head desperately. Something about her fear seemed genuine. He had seen enough bullies in his time to recognize them, and these hunters had that look. "Sorry," Jake called back. "I'm just a cargo hauler. Don't know anything about any fugitive." The security chief did not sound convinced. "We're coming aboard to search your ship," Jake thought quickly. He had finished his delivery and was technically free to leave. "Actually, I just got clearance for departure." "Have a nice day." He rushed to the pilot's seat and began the launch sequence. The Freedom's Edge was not built for speed, but Jake knew how to get the most out of her engines. As they pulled away from the station, he could see the bounty hunters scrambling to reach their own ship. "Where can I take you?" Jake asked Zara as they cleared the station's traffic control zone. "Anywhere away from here," she said. "I have little money, but I can work. I know much about ship systems and engines." Jake studied her face. Most aliens he had met were either very formal or looked down on humans as primitive, but Zara seemed different. There was intelligence in her glowing eyes and desperation too. "What kind of work did you do before?" he asked. "I maintained machines for my employers," she said carefully. "I learned much about technology and repairs." The bounty hunter's ship appeared on his sensors, moving fast to intercept them. Jake pushed his engines harder and changed course toward the asteroid field that surrounded this system. It was dangerous, but he knew these rocks better than most pilots. "Hold on," he warned Zara. For the next hour, Jake flew through the twisting passages between asteroids, using every trick he had learned in his military days. The bounty hunters were good, but their ship was bigger and less maneuverable. Finally, Jake found a hiding spot deep in the field where the metal in the rocks would hide them from sensors. They waited in silence for 2 hours before Jake was sure the hunters had given up. When they finally emerged from the asteroid field, there was no sign of pursuit. "That was incredible flying," Zara said, and Jake heard real admiration in her voice. "I have never seen anyone navigate like that." "Just practice," Jake said, though he felt pleased by the compliment. "So you said you could work on ship systems?" "Yes." If you will allow me, I can improve your engine efficiency by at least 15%. Jake raised an eyebrow. His engines were old but well maintained. Any improvement would save him a lot of money on fuel. If you can do that, you've got yourself a job. Over the next few days, as they traveled toward the Outer Rim territories, Zara proved she was as good as her word. She not only improved his engines but fixed a dozen small problems Jake had learned to live with. His ship ran smoother and quieter than it had in years. But there were things about Zara that puzzled him. Her English was perfect, with only a slight accent that sounded almost musical. She knew not just basic maintenance but advanced engineering concepts that most technicians never learned. And sometimes, when she thought he was not looking, she carried herself with a dignity that seemed out of place for someone who claimed to be a servant. Still, she worked hard and never complained. She was polite but not servile, which Jake appreciated. He had never been comfortable with the idea of servants anyway. His parents had taught him that all people deserved respect, regardless of their station in life. As they sat in the ship's small galley sharing a meal, Jake decided to ask the question that had been bothering him. Zara, what exactly were you running from back at the station? She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her food. People who would force me into a life I do not want, she said finally. People who see me only as property to be traded. Jake felt a familiar anger rise in his chest. He had seen too much injustice in his travels, too many powerful people who treated others badly just because they could. Well, you're safe now, he said. Nobody's property on my ship. Zara looked up at him with those glowing eyes, and for a moment Jake thought he saw tears forming. Thank you, Jake Morrison, she said softly. You are not like the others I have known. 3 weeks had passed since Jake rescued Zara from the bounty hunters at Kepler Station. In that time, she had transformed his ship from a barely functional cargo hauler into something that ran like a dream. The engines hummed smoothly, the life support systems worked perfectly, and even the coffee maker produced better coffee than it had in years. Jake found himself looking forward to their conversations during meals and the long hours of space travel. Zara was intelligent and curious about everything. She asked endless questions about human culture, Earth history, and Jake's own life. Her interest seemed genuine, not the polite small talk he was used to from other aliens. Tell me about your family, Zara asked one evening as they shared dinner in the ship's small galley. Not much to tell, Jake said, cutting into his ration-packed meal. My parents ran a small farm in Ohio. They taught me that honest work is good work and that you treat people right regardless of where they come from. They sound wise, Zara said. On my world, families are different. Children are taught their place from birth and rarely question it. Jake noticed how carefully she spoke about her past. She never mentioned specific places or names, always speaking in general terms about her world or her people. It was like she was hiding something, but Jake did not want to push. Everyone had a right to their secrets. What puzzled him more were the little things that did not add up. Zara claimed to be from a servant class, but her speech was too refined, too educated. When she thought he was not listening, she sometimes spoke to the ship's computer in formal Veltar, using what sounded like high-class dialect. And her knowledge of technology went far beyond basic maintenance. Yesterday, she had suggested modifications to their navigation system that would improve accuracy by 30%. When Jake asked where she learned such advanced techniques, she had looked uncomfortable and changed the subject. Their current destination was the cargo depot at Titan 7, a 3-week journey through some of the less-traveled space lanes. Jake had a contract to deliver mining equipment to the outer colonies, work that would pay well if they could avoid pirates and other troubles. On their second week out from Kepler Station, trouble found them anyway. The pirate ship appeared on their sensors without warning, dropping out of hyperspace right in their path. It was an old military cruiser, probably stolen from some planetary defense force. Jake cursed and began evasive maneuvers, but the Freedom's Edge was a cargo ship, not a fighter. This is Captain Rex Holland of the Crimson Sword, came a rough voice over the communication system. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. Make this easy and nobody gets hurt. Jake had heard of Holland. The pirate captain was known for his cruelty and for selling prisoners to the slave markets in the outer systems. There was no way Jake was going to surrender Zara to someone like that. Not happening, Jake muttered, pushing his engines to maximum power. The pirate ship was faster, but Jake knew a few tricks. He flew toward the nearby moon, using its gravity well to slingshot around and gain speed. The pirates followed, firing warning shots that lit up the darkness around them. "Can you work the defensive systems?" Jake called to Zara, who was strapped into the co-pilot seat. "Yes," she said, her fingers flying over the control panels with surprising skill. What happened next amazed Jake. Zara did not just operate the ship's defenses, she improved them. Somehow, she managed to boost their shield strength and redirect power to systems Jake did not even know they had. When the pirates fired their main weapons, the shots bounced harmlessly off their reinforced shields. "How did you do that?" Jake asked, amazed. "Your ship has Veltar components," Zara explained, still working the controls. "I know how to make them work better together." The pirates were getting frustrated. They had expected an easy target, not a cargo ship that could match their firepower. Jake used their confusion to his advantage, leading them into the moon's ring system where the debris would interfere with their targeting. "Warning shots are over." Holland's voice crackled with anger. "Prepare to die." The pirate ship fired everything it had, but Zara was ready. She somehow managed to redirect the incoming energy through their shields and back out through their own weapons. The reflected blast hit the pirate ship's engines, sending it spinning out of control. "Impossible," Holland screamed over the radio. "No cargo hauler has that kind of technology." Jake grinned as he watched the pirate ship drift helplessly in space. "Guess you picked the wrong target today." As they flew away from the disabled pirates, Jake looked at Zara with new eyes. No ordinary technician could have done what she just did. The modifications she had made to their systems were beyond anything he had ever seen. "Zara," he said carefully, "where exactly did you learn to do that?" She was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the stars. "I told you I maintained machines for my employers. They had very advanced technology. Advanced enough to turn a cargo ship into a warship? The technology was there," she said. "It just needed someone who understood how to use it properly." Jake studied her profile as she worked to return their systems to normal. There was something regal about the way she held herself, something that reminded him of the Veltar nobles he had seen on the news broadcasts. But that was impossible. What would Veltar royalty be doing running from bounty hunters? "Is there anything else about your past I should know?" Jake asked. "In case we run into more trouble?" Zara turned to look at him, and for a moment her composure slipped. He saw fear in her glowing eyes, but also something else. Guilt, maybe, or regret. "I have told you the truth," she said finally. "I was forced to serve people who did not treat me well. You are the first person who has shown me kindness without expecting something in return." There was emotion in her voice that made Jake's chest tighten. Whatever she was running from, it had hurt her deeply. He found himself wanting to protect her, not just from bounty hunters and pirates, but from whatever had put that pain in her eyes. "Well, you've more than earned your place on this ship," Jake said. "I've never seen flying like that, and I've been in space for 10 years. "You are a good pilot," Zara said. "Better than many I have known. Your people have a gift for adapting to any situation." "My people, humans," she said. "You do not give up even when the odds are against you. It is admirable." Jake felt a strange pride at her words. He had heard other aliens say that humans were stubborn or reckless, but Zara made it sound like a virtue. That night, as Jake lay in his bunk listening to the smooth hum of the engines, he thought about the mysterious woman who had changed his life. Whatever secret she was keeping, he was glad she was here. The Freedom's Edge had never run better, and he had never enjoyed the long hours of space travel more. He just hoped that whatever she was running from would not catch up to them before he could help her find the freedom she was looking for. New Calgary was not much to look at from orbit. The frontier colony sat on a cold, rocky world at the edge of human space, home to about 50,000 miners and their families. Jake had delivered supplies here before, and he knew the people were tough, hardworking folks who did not ask many questions about where their cargo came from. As the Freedom's Edge descended through the thin atmosphere, Jake felt optimistic about this delivery. The mining equipment in his hold would fetch a good price, and New Calgary was far enough from the main shipping lanes that bounty hunters were unlikely to follow them here. "It is a harsh world," Zara observed, looking out at the barren landscape through the cockpit window. "Maybe," Jake said, "but the people here are good. They came out here to build something new, away from all the politics and corruption of the inner systems." They landed at the small spaceport outside the main settlement. Jake was surprised to see an Earth Defense Corps ship parked in one of the military berths. The sleek cruiser looked out of place among the rough cargo haulers and mining ships. "Stay close," Jake told Zara as they walked toward the customs office. Military types sometimes asked too many questions, but it was too late to avoid attention. A woman in the blue uniform of an EDF captain was walking directly toward them. Jake recognized her immediately, Captain Lisa Chang, who had served under the same commander during his time in the Corps. "Jake Morrison," Chang said with a smile. "I heard you were running cargo out here. Good to see you again." "Lisa," Jake replied, trying to keep his voice casual. "What brings the EDF to New Calgary?" Chang's expression grew serious as her eyes focused on Zara. The alien woman had pulled her hood up to hide her distinctive crystalline features, but it was too late. "We need to talk," Chang said quietly. "All three of us now." They found a private meeting room in the Spaceport Administration building. Chang activated a privacy shield that would prevent anyone from listening to their conversation. Jake felt his stomach tightening with worry. "Do you know who you have been traveling with?" Chang asked without introduction. "Her name is Zara," Jake said. "She's been working on my ship." Chang pulled out a portable display unit and activated it. A holographic image appeared in the air. It was clearly Zara, but dressed in elaborate royal robes and wearing a crown of crystalline spikes. "This is Princess Velcara of the Veltar Crystalline Empire," Chang said. "Daughter of Emperor Velthanos and heir to one of the most powerful thrones in the galaxy." Jake stared at the image, then at Zara, who had lowered her hood and was looking at the floor. The resemblance was unmistakable, but seeing her in royal dress made her seem like a completely different person. "Is this true?" Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Zara, Princess Velcara, nodded slowly. "Yes, it is true." Jake felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. "You lied to me. This whole time you've been lying." "I never lied about who I am inside," she said, looking up at him with those glowing eyes. "Only about my title." "Your title?" Jake's voice rose. "You're the heir to an empire that controls half the inner systems. You have fleets of warships and billions of subjects, and you let me think you were a servant?" Captain Chang cleared her throat. "There's more, Jake. Princess Velcara disappeared 3 months ago, the day before her arranged marriage to General Tharak of the War Caste. The entire Veltar Empire has been searching for her. Some factions are threatening civil war if she doesn't return." Jake sat down heavily in his chair. The implications were staggering. He had been harboring one of the most important people in the galaxy without knowing it. Worse, he had genuine feelings for someone who had been deceiving him from the moment they met. "Why?" he asked Zara. "Why run away from all that power?" "Because it is not power," she said, passion creeping into her voice. "It is a prison. I was to be married to a brutal warlord who cares nothing for our people, only for expanding his own influence. The marriage would have given him control over our military forces, so you ran away and let me believe you were someone else." "I was afraid," she admitted. "Afraid you would turn me in for the reward, or afraid you would treat me differently if you knew the truth." Jake laughed bitterly. "Treat you differently? You're damn right I would have treated you differently. I would never have let you clean my engine room or fix my coffee maker if I knew you were royalty." "That is exactly why I could not tell you," she said. "For the first time in my life, someone treated me as an equal. Someone valued me for my work, not my bloodline. You have no idea what that meant to me." Captain Chang interrupted their argument. "This is all very touching, but we have a bigger problem. My sensors are picking up Veltar ships entering the system. A lot of them." Jake felt his blood run cold.
"How many?"
"An entire battle fleet," Chang said. "They'll be here within hours." The meeting room fell silent as the weight of the situation settled on them. Jake had known that Zara was running from something dangerous, but he had never imagined anything like this. "What do they want?" Jake asked. "They want me," Zara said, "and they will destroy this entire colony to get me if they have to." "Will they really attack civilians?" "General Tharak will," she said with certainty. "He sees humans as inferior beings. The deaths of a few thousand colonists means nothing to him." Jake stood up and began pacing. 50,000 innocent people were about to become casualties in an alien war, and it was partly his fault for bringing Zara here. "We have to get you off this planet," he said. "It is too late," she replied. "They will have this system surrounded by now. And even if we could escape, they would follow us wherever we went. Captain Chang checked her communication device. I've contacted Earth Command, but the nearest fleet is 3 weeks away. We're on our own. Jake stopped pacing and looked at both women. An idea was forming in his mind. A crazy, desperate idea that would probably get him killed. What if we don't run? He said. What do you mean? Chang asked. I mean, what if we make a stand? Zara, you said General Tharok wants to marry you to gain control of your empire's military. What if there was another way? I do not understand. Jake turned to face her directly. You're the rightful heir to the throne, right? That means you have the authority to make decisions for your empire? In theory, yes, but... Then challenge him, Jake said. Publicly. Make him prove he's worthy of marrying into your royal line. Zara stared at him as if he had lost his mind. Jake, you do not understand. Tharok is a genetically enhanced warrior. He has never lost a single combat. If I challenge him, he will kill me. Not if you choose a champion to fight for you. The room fell silent again as both women realized what Jake was suggesting. No, Zara said immediately. Absolutely not. I will not let you die for my mistakes. It might be our only chance to save the colony, Jake said. And besides, someone needs to stand up to bullies like Tharok. That's what humans do. Captain Chang shook her head. Jake, this is insane. You can't fight an enhanced alien warrior. Maybe not, Jake admitted, but I can try. And sometimes that's enough. Outside the window, the first of the Veltar ships appeared in the sky, dark shapes against the pale sun. Time was running out, and Jake knew that whatever decision they made in the next few minutes would determine the fate of everyone on New Calgary. The massive Veltar warship hung in the sky above New Calgary like a dark metal mountain. Jake had seen pictures of Imperial vessels before, but nothing had prepared him for the sheer size of the thing. It was easily 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could turn the entire colony into glass in minutes. Smaller ships surrounded the main vessel, cruisers, destroyers, and fighters that formed a blockade around the planet. There was no way in or out of the system now. Even Captain Chang's EDF cruiser looked like a toy next to the alien fleet. Citizens of New Calgary. A harsh voice boomed from speakers across the colony. I am General Tharok of the Veltar War caste. You are harboring a fugitive who belongs to the Empire. You have 24 hours to surrender Princess Velcara, or this colony will be destroyed. Jake stood in the emergency meeting hall, listening to the panicked voices of the colonists around him. Mayor Danny Foster was trying to maintain order, but fear was spreading through the crowd like wildfire. These were good people, miners, farmers, shopkeepers, who had come to the frontier to build better lives for their families. They did not deserve to die because Jake had decided to help a stranger. We have to give her up, shouted someone from the back of the room. We can't fight an entire fleet. She's not even human, another voice added. Why should we die for her? Jake felt anger building in his chest. He climbed up onto the platform where Mayor Foster was standing. Because it's the right thing to do, Jake said loudly, and the room gradually fell silent. Easy for you to say, called out Marcus Webb, one of the mining supervisors. You brought this trouble here. You should be the one to fix it. You're right, Jake agreed. I did bring her here and I take responsibility for that. But I won't apologize for helping someone who needed it. He looked around the room at the faces of his fellow humans. Some were angry, some were scared, but all of them were listening. 3 weeks ago, I found a person being chased by armed thugs. She was hurt, scared, and asking for help. I didn't know who she was, and frankly, I didn't care. She was in trouble, and helping people in trouble is what humans do. Pretty words, Webb said, but they won't stop orbital bombardment. Maybe not, Jake admitted, but there might be another way. He explained his plan to challenge General Tharok according to ancient Veltar law. The room erupted in arguments as people tried to process what he was suggesting. You can't be serious, Mayor Foster said. You want to fight an alien super soldier in single combat. Someone has to make a stand, Jake replied. And I'd rather it be me than watch 50,000 people die because we were too afraid to try. Captain Chang stepped forward. Jake, I've seen the intelligence reports on Tharok. He's not just enhanced, he's been genetically modified for combat since birth. His bones are denser than steel, his reflexes are 10 times faster than human normal, and he's been trained in every form of combat known to his species. Then it should be a fair fight, Jake said with a grim smile. The comment drew nervous laughter from some of the colonists, but the mood in the room was shifting. Jake could see it in their faces. These people were remembering why they had come to the frontier in the first place. They were rebels, outcasts, and pioneers who had left comfortable lives behind to build something new. Even if you somehow won, Webb said, though his tone was less hostile now. What makes you think this Tharok would honor the results? Because he'll have to, said a new voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Zara entering the hall. She had changed out of her work clothes into something that looked more formal. Not the royal robes from the hologram, but clothing that marked her as Veltar nobility. Princess Velcara, Mayor Foster said, attempting a bow. Just Zara, she corrected him. And Jake is right about the law. If I formally claim my inheritance and name a champion, Tharok will have to accept the challenge or forfeit his claim to marry into the royal bloodline. But you said he's never lost a fight, Jake pointed out. He has not, Zara admitted, but the law is sacred to our people. If he refuses to fight or tries to cheat, the other noble houses will turn against him. His power depends on their support. An older woman named Beth Murphy raised her hand. What happens if Jake wins? Then I take my rightful place as Empress, Zara said, and General Tharok will be banished from the Empire. And if Jake loses? Zara's voice was barely above a whisper. Then I marry Tharok and he gains control of our military forces. The hall fell silent as everyone considered the stakes. Finally, Mayor Foster called for a vote. All in favor of supporting Jake's challenge. Hands went up around the room. Not all of them, but more than half. Jake felt a surge of pride in his fellow humans. They were scared, but they were willing to stand up for what was right. The colony supports you, Jake, Foster said officially. Over the next few hours, Jake tried to prepare for the fight of his life. Captain Chang helped him requisition the best armor and weapons the colony could provide, while Zara taught him what she could about Veltar combat techniques. Tharok will try to end the fight quickly, she explained as they practiced in the colony's gymnasium. He is stronger and faster than you, so he will want to use those advantages. So what's my strategy? Survive long enough to find a weakness, she said. And remember, you have something he does not. What's that? Unpredictability. Tharok has trained against other Veltar warriors his entire life. He has never fought a human in formal combat. Jake nodded, though he was not sure how much that would help him against someone who could probably crush his skull with one hand. That evening, as Jake sat in his quarters trying to calm his nerves, Zara came to see him. I want you to know, she said, that what you are doing is the bravest thing I have ever witnessed. Or the stupidest, Jake replied. Perhaps both, she agreed with a sad smile. But you have shown me something I never believed possible. What's that? That there are still people in the galaxy who will stand up for others, even when it costs them everything. Jake studied her face in the dim light. Why didn't you tell me who you really were? And don't say it was because you were afraid I'd treat you differently. Zara was quiet for a long moment, because for the first time in my life I was free to be just myself. Not a princess, not a political symbol, just me. You valued my work, my thoughts, my contributions. No one had ever done that before, and now I have to go back to being a princess. But I will never forget what it felt like to be treated as an equal. Jake reached out and took her hand. Her crystalline skin was warm to the touch, and he could feel a faint vibration, like electricity running just beneath the surface. Whatever happens tomorrow, he said, don't let them turn you into something you're not. The galaxy needs more leaders who understand what it means to be free. Zara squeezed his hand gently. If you win tomorrow, things will change between us. I will have responsibilities, duties that I cannot ignore. I know, Jake said, but that doesn't mean we can't still be friends. Friends, she repeated as if testing the word. Yes, I would like that very much. Outside, the alien fleet continued its silent vigil, waiting for the dawn that would bring either salvation or destruction to New Calgary. Jake tried to sleep, but his mind kept returning to the same thought. In less than 12 hours, he would face an opponent who had been designed from birth to kill, with nothing but his human stubbornness and a desperate hope that sometimes the impossible could happen. The morning sun cast long shadows across the makeshift arena that had been constructed in New Calgary's main square. Word of the challenge had spread throughout the galaxy overnight, and ships from dozens of different species had arrived to witness the spectacle. Representatives from the Galactic Council, news crews, and curious onlookers filled viewing platforms that surrounded the circular combat area. Jake stood at the edge of the arena, trying to calm his nerves as he checked his equipment one final time. The armor felt strange and heavy, even though it was the lightest combat gear the colony could provide. In his hands he held a simple plasma sword. Nothing fancy, but it was well-balanced and reliable. Across the arena, General Tharok emerged from his landing shuttle like a walking nightmare. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, his body encased in black armor that seemed to absorb light. His face was hidden behind a mask, but Jake could see glowing red eyes through the visor. Every movement spoke of perfect control and deadly precision. Zara stood on the royal platform, dressed now in the full regalia of Veltar royalty. The crown on her head caught the sunlight and threw rainbow patterns across the arena floor. She looked every inch the princess she had always been. But when their eyes met, Jake saw the same person who had fixed his coffee maker just days before. "Citizens of the galaxy," announced the Veltar herald, his voice carrying to every corner of the arena, "we are gathered to witness formal combat between General Tharok of the War Caste and the human Jake Morrison, champion of Princess Velkara. The winner will determine the future of the Veltar throne." Jake walked to the center of the arena. Trying to project confidence he did not feel, Tharok approached from the opposite side, moving with the fluid grace of a predator. Up close, the alien general was even more intimidating. Jake could hear the hum of cybernetic enhancements and see the slight glow of genetic modifications beneath his armor. "You should have stayed out of affairs that do not concern you, human," Tharok said, his voice distorted by his helmet speakers. "Your death will serve as a lesson to others." "Maybe," Jake replied, raising his sword. "But at least I'll go down fighting for something I believe in." The herald raised his staff.
"Combat begins right now."
Tharok moved faster than Jake thought possible. The general's sword came down in a devastating arc that would have split Jake in half if he had not thrown himself to the side at the last second. The blade struck the arena floor, sending up sparks and leaving a deep gouge in the metal. Jake rolled away and came up swinging, but Tharok was already moving, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to dodge easily. The general's return strike came so fast that Jake barely got his sword up in time to block. The impact sent shockwaves up his arms and drove him to one knee. "Too slow, human," Tharok taunted, pressing his attack. For the next few minutes, Jake was purely on the defensive. Tharok's strength and speed were overwhelming, and it was all Jake could do to avoid being cut in half. The crowd watched in tense silence as the human champion gave ground steadily, parrying desperate blocks and diving out of the way of killing blows. But as the fight continued, Jake began to notice patterns in Tharok's attacks. The general was incredibly skilled, but his technique was formal, textbook perfect. He fought the way he had been trained to fight, with no variation or creativity. Jake, on the other hand, had learned to fight in a dozen different conflicts against enemies who played by no rules at all. When Tharok came at him with another overhead strike, Jake did something unexpected. Instead of blocking or dodging, he dropped his sword and grabbed Tharok's weapon arm with both hands. The general was stronger, but Jake used his momentum against him, twisting and throwing him off balance. For just a moment, Tharok stumbled, and Jake saw his chance. He scooped up his fallen sword and lunged forward, the blade scraping across Tharok's armor and drawing first blood. The crowd erupted in surprised cheers. No one had expected the human to last this long, much less actually wound the legendary general. Tharok touched the cut on his arm and stared at the blue blood on his fingers. "Impossible," he snarled. "No inferior being has ever drawn my blood. Guess there's a first time for everything," Jake said, breathing hard but grinning. The general's composure cracked. Instead of the controlled, precise fighter he had been before, Tharok now attacked with rage and fury. His blows were more powerful but less accurate, and Jake found he could predict them more easily. Jake began to fight back in earnest, using every dirty trick he had learned in his years as a soldier and cargo pilot. He threw sand in Tharok's eyes, used the arena walls to change direction suddenly, and fought with a chaotic style that frustrated the general's formal training. But the battle was taking its toll on Jake. His armor was cracked in several places, and blood ran from cuts on his arms and face. Tharok might be angry, but he was still incredibly dangerous. And Jake's human endurance had its limits. "You fight like an animal," Tharok spat as they circled each other, both breathing heavily now. "I fight like a human," Jake corrected him. "We don't give up." Tharok raised his sword for what looked like a finishing blow, but Jake was ready. As the general brought his weapon down, Jake stepped inside his guard and drove his own blade forward with everything he had left. The plasma sword punched through Tharok's armor just below the chest plate, finding the gap where the pieces joined. The general's eyes went wide with shock as he looked down at the weapon protruding from his body. "This cannot be," he whispered, dropping his sword. "It is," Jake said firmly. "And now you're going to leave this system and never come back." Tharok fell to his knees, then collapsed completely. Medical teams rushed onto the arena floor, but it was clear that the fight was over. Against all odds, the human had won. The crowd erupted in cheers that could be heard across the colony. Jake stood in the center of the arena, swaying on his feet but still upright. He had done it. He had actually done it. Zara was the first to reach him, running across the arena with tears streaming down her face. She threw her arms around him, and for a moment Jake forgot about the watching crowds and the galactic implications of what had just happened. "You did it," she whispered. "You actually did it." "We did it," Jake corrected her. "Together." In the days that followed, the galaxy watched as Princess Velkara was formally crowned as Empress of the Veltar Empire. Her first official act was to banish General Tharok and his supporters, sending a clear message that the new reign would be different from the old. Her second act was to establish a formal alliance with humanity, recognizing Earth as an equal partner in galactic affairs. The treaty was signed in the same arena where Jake had fought for her freedom, with representatives from across the galaxy as witnesses. "The Veltar Empire extends the hand of friendship to humanity," the new Empress declared, "and we named Jake Morrison as our first human ambassador, a bridge between our peoples." Jake, still recovering from his injuries, accepted the position with mixed feelings. It meant leaving his simple life as a cargo pilot behind, but it also meant he could continue working with Zara to build a better future for both their species. As they stood together on the platform, watching the celebration in the streets below, Zara spoke quietly to him. "Are you sure about this? Being an ambassador will not be easy. There will be those who oppose our alliance." Jake smiled and looked out at the crowd of humans and aliens celebrating together. "Someone once told me that standing up for what's right is what humans do. Besides, I've got a good partner to help me figure it out." Zara smiled back, the expression transforming her face from regal to genuinely happy. "Yes, you do. And Jake? Yeah? Thank you for treating me like a person first and a princess second. I will never forget that lesson." Jake nodded, knowing that their friendship had changed both of their lives forever. The galaxy was a big place, full of dangers and wonders they had yet to discover. But whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. A human cargo pilot and an alien empress who had learned that sometimes the most important battles are fought not with weapons, but with courage, compassion, and the simple belief that everyone deserves to be free. In the years that followed, historians would mark this day as the beginning of a new era in galactic relations. But for Jake Morrison, it was simply the day he learned that sometimes doing the right thing, no matter how impossible it seems, can change the universe.